Well, welcome everyone. My name is Mark Light with Life Forward, and I'm here with a very special guest from New Jersey. I don't even know exactly where in New Jersey you are. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and just take a minute and introduce yourself rather than me do it for you, which is the protocol. But this time, I'll let you do that.
Now, thanks for having me. We're actually in Marlton, New Jersey. So Marlton is like 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So that gives you a little bit better
Right
idea.
over there in the very busy East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, so I know that you have a pretty incredible story, which I know a little bit about, and we've talked, and you and I have interacted quite a bit on social media over the last few months, particularly in the last week. But just by way of introducing you or introducing yourself, tell me, who is Michael Thomas?
Michael Thomas. Well, who he is today um, is a man who was completely broken, who had to change everything about the way that he was living his life. Right. So, my name is Michael Thomas Brennan. I prefer to go by Michael Thomas now because it's my new identity. It's what I've worked so hard for over the course of the last 4 years in trying to become. You see a lot of people, we were just discussing this. You see a lot of people who they want to appear to be someone. I wanted to become someone and really just embody everything that I always wanted to be, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have the fucking discipline to put it all together consistently.
Okay.
So
oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, take us back just for a little bit of context. Take us back to the person that Michael Thomas Brennan was prior to 2011 and thereabouts, and then kind of walk it forward.
yeah, so I'm gonna be 44 years old April 1st.
A young man.
So yeah, I honestly do. I look at it that way. 44 to me, it's like, holy shit, I'm 44, but I am still young in the grand scheme of things. I had a great childhood, man. Like I can't say I was in a broken home. I had two great loving parents, I had a brother. We grew up in an area where we're right outside of Philadelphia. For the most part, we live in a very nice rural section of New Jersey,
Okay.
but I grew up around tough kids. I grew up and I liked the club scene. I liked the partying. I like all the stuff that came along with that is not conducive to creating a man that you can be proud of. So, when I graduated high school, it seemed like everybody just had life figured out. Number one, I hated school. I had a very difficult time sitting still. I've gotten a lot better at it, but I just never liked school. I didn't see what the point of it was. I liked gym
Right there with
class.
you.
And I didn't mind reading as long as it was something that interested me. Like now I have a bookshelf that's hundreds of books because it's actually stuff that helps me grow. But I started hanging around with the wrong people because when you're vibrating lower, I think that's what you're attracted to. Not people that have goals and have visions and have they're purpose driven. So my life was one big party, and the more I saw people becoming successful, made me party even more, just to try to escape the reality, because I just didn't have discipline and I didn't have like a direction where I was waking up every day and my goal was to become this person or do this by this certain date. I was just waking up and just going through the motions of life. And, that journey took me to some really, really dark places. Partying is fun in the beginning. Everybody's having a great time. And it just seems like you're invincible and everybody does it.
For sure.
Then you start losing friends at a young age, and that is really eye-opening, number one. But then number two, for me, like I started doing drugs by myself. And, it went from like big parties and clubs to I was never an everyday user of drugs, but I would end up in these fucking scumbag hotels by myself, not knowing how I got there. It was just like complete mental breakdown. Like, get me out. And the only way that my brain, the only thing that it sought when I got that low, and it usually happened like January, February, after months of just, binge eating and drinking whatever, because it's the holidays and that's what people do. But
Right.
that's all my brain knew to escape, to turn it off. And then, of course, when you wake up and it's like, oh, how did I do this again? How did I get here? I've destroyed everything again. And like we were discussing earlier, fortunately for me, I had a strong woman by my side who stood by me through those times. She didn't leave, because I know that if she did, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have made it, man. I would not have made it. So she is my saving grace. She's my rock, man. She's everything. And we're business partners, we're best friends. We do it all together. And we've been through it all together.
So
we
you've
got
got
married
married.
in
Oh, I'm sorry.
2011. We got married in 2011, and look, my drinking problem got so bad to the point where the day that we got married, I had to drink beer in the morning just to get to the church, like to feel comfortable in my skin, because I was so worried about how, like, all the people there and interacting with people. I hated it. Years prior to that, I was anything but that. I wouldn't say the life of the party, but like I loved people. So I went from this outgoing people person to this reclusive, introverted, social anxiety ridden, just panic attack every other day type of guy that was just like, fuck, man, life was so hard. So we came back from our honeymoon and I was just completely disgusted with myself because I was drunk every day. All I did was think about me, me, me. I had my first major panic attack at a restaurant on our honeymoon, which she saw. And again, she didn't judge me, but women shouldn't have to put up with that shit, man. Like us as men, we shouldn't be, if we go through stuff like this, it needs to be a wake-up call for us. Like these are notifications to let you know that you're messing up. You're messing up. So came back, saw a picture of myself. I was at the bar. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I got a cigarette in my hand, guts out to here. I'm like, nah, I can't go into my marriage like this. So I quit everything cold turkey, drinking, smoking. I was sober from 2011 to 2017. During that time, I grew our family painting business. It became pretty successful pretty quickly. And I went to a golf outing and thought I could just have a couple beers. Because up to that point, I never acknowledged and said, you know what, I'm an alcoholic. I can't drink. I just knew I didn't want to do it anymore. So at that point, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a couple beers. I experienced some anxiety. Well, that didn't work out too well. The next 3 years were like a bender. So I didn't.
What happened during those 3 years? I mean, what are some of the things that were low points during that time period?
What happened to me was, it was, Michelle actually, she just happens to be sitting here. She came up to the golf outing afterwards and she took one look at me and she was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just had a couple, it's fine. And then the next night I'm like, I'm already at the liquor store. Oh, babe, it's just a 6-pack. I'm just getting a 6-pack. And then the next week it's a 12-pack. And then 2 months from now, the cleaners are finding like vodka shooter bottles under the couches. So for me, like, that's how progressively my mind just needs more. My dad was the turning point. And then her dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And her dad loved him, man. Old school Italian, just super, super disciplined military guy, but very, very compassionate towards the ones that he loved, towards his family. And he never, spoke down to me. He was just very understanding, and he was a great mentor to me. So when he got sick, man, it was just like, man, it really broke me down, and I just started leaning on that alcohol even more. And then when he passed away, it really hurt me. So I just started drinking even more. And I woke up one day and I knew that if I didn't stop, I wasn't going to be here anymore. It was to the point where like I had to take Klonopin in the morning just to get the fucking shakes to go away.
Wow.
And you know, I've always been a leader. You know, so I never wanted anybody to know that I was in pain. So no one ever knew. No one knew except for my wife. You know, I was the guy that had it all together on the outside. The house, the cars, the business. It all looked like everything was fucking beautiful. But I was dead, man. I was dying inside. So, you know, I went searching. I went searching for a coach. Somebody that that spoke to me, because for me to listen to another man was very difficult, because I don't like being told what to do. So I have to know, like I have to really feel it. And I did. And I saw transformations from other guys that had similar stories that were battling alcohol and drugs, who completely changed their lives, not just their physique. Yeah, I didn't want to see people who just got a set of abs and now they can like go be a model. I wanted to see guys who were fit but had it all, like the family, the real internal happiness is what I was seeking that I could never find. Even when I was sober from 2011 to 2017, I was still not purpose driven. I was searching for my purpose. And I just, like I said to you earlier, I think we all have the same purpose. And for me, it's just to get up and create the best version of myself every day, remain in alignment with my highest self. And by doing that, I'm able to give myself to the world as my highest self.
I like
I'm
that.
compassionate. I'm empathetic. Listen, you watch me, man. I'm hard.
You're
Like,
tough
I
as
will
nails.
tell you the fucking truth if I
Yes, you
think
will.
you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, I'll cry with you, man. Like, I get it. I know what pain is, you know? So,
I want to get into, Michael, what it is you're doing and how that came to be. But first, before I forget to ask, I've noticed you mentioned it just earlier here in this conversation, but there's a phrase that seeps into a lot of what you do online, and that is high frequency.
yeah,
Talk about that a little bit. What is that? And tell me what that means.
man, I wish I knew what frequency was and what affected it, you know, because a lot of people like those lower frequencies. When you're in a lower frequency state, you have more fear, you have more apathy, anxiety, negative self-talk. And what creates a low frequency state is a lot of different things: poor sleep, poor food choices, too much alcohol and drugs, not enough exercise, no discipline. And it's basically just like when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing all the time, you are going to be in a low frequency state. So once I really committed to an early morning wake up, a morning routine, meditation in the morning is huge. Hot and cold therapy, reading a certain amount of pages every single day, and 100% committing, I started to notice my energy, my attitude, my outlook on life, the way I interacted with other people. I was on a different frequency. And I realized that I could remain the majority of the time at that frequency just by sticking to my habits.
I love it. I love
And
it.
it took me fucking 40 years to figure it out. And that's why I'm so passionate now about sharing it, especially to these. I want to grab some of these 21-year-olds and just shake them and be like, dude, I actually had a kid, man. He's reached out to me now for like the last week or so. He's still in high school. And he calls me coach, which is great. I love that. But he's asking me these questions like, Mike, what books can you recommend to me that will really help me? I sent him a book. 2 days later, he's like, dude, I read that book. It's awesome. Can you recommend another one?
Wow.
Mike, what can I do to improve my morning routine that's going to help me be like you? That is why I do what I do. I don't need millions of freaking people. If I can impact one person every day, it makes all my demons go away.
I get it. And what jumps off the page, because you and I, the more I hear about your story, you and I have similar mindsets in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I heard you talking about that affects me to this day, and I struggle with, but this high, how'd you say high school student, teenager, whatever the gentleman you just described here,
Yeah.
and that is, it takes a lot more courage to ask for help, find help, and ask for help than what I traditionally have had. It sounds like you have a lot of similarities in your makeup, but that's where this gentleman you're just talking about sounds like he's got a huge leg up. And I just want to get your thoughts on that concept, asking for help.
You know, and that's why I'm vulnerable, because I want more men to realize, like, yo, man, listen, it's completely okay if you're not okay. That's fine. Just admit it, because once you do, I can show you how to get okay very quickly if you're willing to commit. A lot of men, unfortunately, because we're just stubborn assholes, we need to feel so much freaking pain before we're just like, that's it, I'm done. And that's where I was when I hired a coach. I was finally, for once in my life, ready to just say, I'll listen to anything, instead of getting information and picking it apart and saying, why this, why that, why this. I just did it.
When the student is ready, the teacher enters the room. Ain't that the
And that's
truth?
the thing, man. This kid, that's why it's like, it gives me the goosebumps just talking about it, because he didn't have to feel that pain to get that mentality. And I said, dude, you don't understand who you're going to be if you just commit. You can really be somebody so special. And that doesn't mean like being famous or being whatever, just somebody that's a really good person that's going to be able to create other good people.
I love it. So talk about MTF Family, your endeavor, and how does that tie in? And was there a seminal moment that got you started on the path you're currently on? Just kind of bring us up to speed on how you're using your adversity to help others here.
Well, again, I think it goes back to, vulnerability, right? And that's one of the main reasons why I created MTF, is because I was that man at one point when I was in those low frequency states. If I was scrolling social media and, you see certain people becoming successful, sharing certain things that can really just like, piss you off. Like, why can't I do that? When in reality, when you're in a high frequency state and you see stuff like that, you'll be the first one to congratulate them. But when you're not, you hate. And that form of that hatred, if you're hating on somebody, you're in a low frequency state. Winners don't hate on other winners. They only congratulate. And winners do everything in their power to bring losers up. So that was one of my main driving forces for creating the MTF family, because I wanted to be a place on social media where people know they can go. And there's going to be guys and women, men and women, two genders, that motivate, uplift, inspire people with their posts. And they also share anything that's causing them pain. They're just vulnerable. And that's real. That's what I want to see on social media. I don't want to see your vacations all the time. I think it's great. Share it. I'm just saying, like, I want to know the real, and you don't really get that from regular.
No, you really don't. But the one word, as you were going down the list, vulnerability and those other terms, which are all awesome. The one that you left off that is a big deal to me is accountability. Seems to be ubiquitously out there on your page.
Everything, personal accountability, you know, because that's the difference between becoming and appearing. When you hold yourself accountable all the time on every little thing that you tell yourself you're going to do, you raise your self-confidence, which raises your frequency, your vibration. You're just, you have so much more energy naturally and positivity. Why would you want to live any other way?
Agreed. And it's kind of funny talking to you, not ha ha funny, but it's been interesting because on one hand, and this is just me filtering through my thoughts on things, you're talking high frequency, low frequency. It almost sounds like you're this West Coast granola, nuts and berries kind of guy. But anybody that's listened to you for a couple minutes talk and watched, followed you on Facebook, you're anything but. You are a true card carrying badass. You're extremely real. Not saying that West Coast stuff isn't. I'm just saying it's just an interesting, I guess, surface level dichotomy there, and it's just a fascinating thing that what you talk about there.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, being real, man, is everything to me. You know, I don't know anything but, you know, from the time that I wake up in the morning to everything I do throughout my day I'm just trying to be an example for other people. You know,
and being real.
That's it.
Yeah, being real.
I mean, listen, my days used to be wake up, turn the coffee on, turn the news on, right? You got to catch up on all the latest propaganda and bullshit. Why? So then you can go out into the world and spew all your crap to people who have a different viewpoint, who you're never going to change their mind.
Right.
So why aren't we focusing more on what we have in common? That's why I don't allow politics in the MTF family, because I don't give a fuck who you vote for. I care about what you've been through and what you're going through and how we can help each other.
So you started a couple of weeks ago, or at least there was discussion. I don't really know where it is, but you were soliciting folks for the local area that you're in New Jersey for to try to create I believe it was strictly for men, but I don't know. But the support group. Talk about that for a moment.
100%. Yeah, so it's something that I'm, in the early stages of. I need to find a place that's going to allow me to hold it every week. But it's just one of those places, like we were just discussing, like where men can just like release shit, where they can go, like a safe place for help, and they know they're not going to be judged. It's not a thing I'm putting together to try to get from people. I'm just trying to give. I want to give as much as I can to other men that are hurting. Anything, man, from whatever you're grieving, anything you're going through, and also just like that camaraderie, that brotherhood of good, genuine men. That's what we need now in this country more than ever.
Agreed.
Agreed. And that's, unfortunately, they're trying to get rid of all that. And I'm a freaking warrior, dude. Like when the stuff that I see going on, I'm like, nope, not on my watch, not going to happen. So we need men. I'll be one of the leaders of the men.
I have for a long time felt pretty strongly. And I think we're not by any stretch alone here, but true masculinity has been under attack for a really long time now.
Yeah.
And so that's an additional thing, not to turn this into any kind of a political conversation or anything,
Sure.
which it borders on when we say stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so I agree with you there. And masculinity entails a lot of things that I don't think people really realize what that entails. And vulnerability balanced by accountability. What's that?
That's the hard part for most like old school men who, a certain generation, you didn't talk about your feelings.
Right.
You just buried them. But now, like, if you want to be the most masculine man, you have to talk about your feelings, or else you become a byproduct of your feelings from not getting them out.
Yeah.
You know, so the more we feel good about ourselves, the more we can give to our family and the world. You know, so that entails being vulnerable about what, you know, some people might think that you're a bitch for what you're going through. I don't really care. I've dealt with a lot of stuff, and I know that a lot of other men deal with the stuff that I've dealt with, and they're afraid
Well,
to say it.
the thing is, you balance the vulnerability in that side, but you also balance it with accountability, and you know, and that's what I think is I don't want to say fully unique, but it's pretty rare out there to have that balance there, because it with one without the other, um, it leaves a little bit of something to be desired, in my opinion.
Yeah, as soon as my accountability slips, Michael Brennan reemerges very quickly.
Ooh,
That little demon that lives in me, man.
yeah.
I haven't missed a wake up in 4 years. You know, for the first 2 years of that, I set my wake up time at 3:10 a.m. and I didn't miss a day for 2 years straight. And that really built who I am today, because I could never do that consistently as the old version of myself. Or I would tell people I was doing it and not do it. So what I did was
Oh yeah, been there, done it.
my first thing I do every single morning on my stories on Instagram and Facebook is I post my wake up and my morning routine, because that's how I hold myself accountable. You know, I've had days where I've forgotten to do it and have guys reach out, yo, dude, you okay? Like, I don't know these guys. They're like, we're like, so that's like, people need that strength because they don't have it for themselves.
Hey, Michael, I was laying in bed at 5 o'clock 2 or 3 mornings ago, and I thought, I don't feel like getting up and doing it today. And so I picked up my phone, and there is Michael Thomas right there doing a live at 4:30 in the morning, your time. And I thought, no way am I going to be a little bitch if he's out there in the cold wearing his hood calling me out here. So
That's
it
it.
works. The shit works.
Yeah.
So even for me. So if somebody wants to find you and become part of the family, how do they find you on social media? This is your chance to
Yeah.
promote
If you
yourself
want
just a
to
little bit.
become part of the family, you know, if you're on Facebook, just look up MTF Family, answer a couple of the questions, and you know, just join the family. You know,
Awesome.
bring if you're someone who wants to join the family because you need help, please do. If you're somebody that wants to join the family because you feel like you can assist other people that need help, please do. It's open for anyone who's just a good person who wants to
I love it.
give or needs it. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I love it. And you're, you may have just said this and it went over my head, but you're on Facebook and Instagram. Are you any place else?
Oh
Are
yeah.
those mainly your two platforms?
Those are mainly the two platforms. I do post on TikTok, but it's the same stuff that I post on the other. I know you're supposed to switch it up. Listen, I don't have time for that stuff.
I can't keep up with that
It's
either.
the same video on all platforms. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
I love it. I love it. So, rather than ask you in closing what one piece of advice you would give, other than join your family, I'm going to ask you a question that a friend of mine who passed away just over a year ago used to have a podcast called Survive in Advance. And I think it's fitting. He would end every one of his podcasts by asking the guest, because it fits your story so well, and I think it fits a lot of the people's story who are going to be participating on my platform, really both of our platforms. And that question is this, Michael: what does it mean to you to survive in advance?
To survive in advance.
And advance.
Oh, to
Survive
survive
and
and
advance. Yeah.
I would say, listen, back to what I said earlier. My daily process is absolutely everything to me. I cannot continue growing and advancing in life if I skip any of it. So that's why for me, you always hear me say every day is day one, 24/7, 365. My day is the same. And that's how I continue to survive and advance and thrive and grow and just completely keep negativity out of my space. And that's the big thing, man, is being consciously aware of your frequency and what's causing it to raise and lower, and dial into the things that keep it high.
Very good stuff. I can't get over the amount of courage that it takes for you to kind of tell your story, because yes, everything, first of all, no matter what the subject matter is, vulnerability, particularly for men in our society, is a difficult thing where whether we're taught or whatever, innately believe we shouldn't go there. But to be openly vulnerable, but also, adding on to that, the subject matter that you're openly vulnerable about, and using that to build a platform to help other people who are largely in the same position as you, the low frequency situation. So,
well, here's what I want people to know too. 4 years ago, this was my biggest fear: speaking on camera and public speaking. So the more I continued to elevate in my personal development, the more I kept saying to myself, like, if I got the vision for MTF like 3 to 4 months into my personal development process. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? I can't even talk into a camera. I hated it, man. Like I would pick up my phone and put it down. I would look at myself and oh God, like, and then I would hit the camera. I would say something and I'd be like, oh man, what is so-and-so going to think of this and that? And all I did was practice and practice more and more into my stories every day. I would just tell my story. And the more I told my story, the more guys were like, yo, man, thank you so much. Like you just got me out of this dark place. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm onto something here. Like, I need to do this more. And here we are.
Man,
Since
that
then,
speaks to there is a lot of content on
events. So it's, I just continue to face fear, man, and to say, you know what? This is my life. I'm not a victim here. I'm the victor. I don't live in fear. I chase fear down.
I love it. Getting out of a comfort zone and facing your fears is enormous, I would guess, to go high frequency. Well, I wouldn't even guess that I know this. So in closing, anything else, Michael?
Just give it your all every day, man. Life is short, and realize that like anything, and this took me a long time to realize this. Everything happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. So how you choose to react to anything that is happening to you, that's it's part of your journey. Somebody, like everything that you're going through right now in your life, man, somebody's watching your story and seeing your strength every day. And that's your story. That's why it's happening to you, and it's not happening to you. It's happening for you because it's God's way of you giving someone else strength by you getting up every day and doing the hard stuff that, you don't want to do, that's painful for you right now. So.
Yeah, and that's the attitude I've had really since day one of my journey, even though we're not talking about my story right now. We'll get to that soon enough. But well, Michael, listen, there is so much to unpack still on your story and some of the things you do in your life to live the life you're talking about, to get high frequency. This, if you're willing, this warrants more of these types of discussions between the two of us to share and everything else like that. But for right now, we've exceeded the time limit by a little bit that we had budgeted for this. So I really appreciate you joining. And I am a very proud member of the MTF family and have been for a while now. And the more that you and I are talking one-on-one, the more I'm getting out of your family. So that's a lesson right there, is I would highly recommend anybody who considers themselves to be in that low frequency or wants to be higher frequency, become a part of that family there and make yourself an active member of that group, not just a passive one, because that's where I think the real value comes with working with somebody
And
like
that's
yourself.
the group has only been up for 5 months, give or take.
Okay.
But I know a year from now, there's going to be people that are engaging that was very difficult for them to do in the beginning. But the more they see that it's real and it's real people sharing their stories, then their guard is lowered. Their guard's still up, because they're so used to just this fluffy bullshit. So now once they realize like what it's all about, it's I think it's going to be something special, man. And I'm glad that you're in it.
I love it. I appreciate your time, your input, and we will be we'll be having more of these conversations going forward.
You got it, pal. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
You got it.